Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this social media success webinar. My name is Hannah Becker. I'm the creative director at Becker Digital, and I'll be leading us today on this discussion about how to achieve social media success. Social media wields, increasing influence over our culture and communities, and can be an excellent platform for organizations to foster relationships, increase brand awareness, and really connect with their audience in a unique fashion. So the goal of today's webinar is to really help you identify successful social media strategies that will allow your organization to cut through the digital noise and build truly meaningful long-term connections within the community. So kind of the highlights of what we'll be going over in today's webinar. We're going to discuss social media's impact on our communities, what social media success is. We'll define that and hopefully give you some insight into what social media success will look like for your organization. Dispelling popular social media myths that hold up mission-driven organizations. We'll talk about some effective social media marketing practices, and then we will give an overview of how you can develop a social media strategy that is customized for your organization and its mission. Just before we dive into the content, I wanted to give you a quick introduction to the company. Becker Digital is located in Buena Vista, Virginia, near the Blue Ridge Mountains. We provide marketing and public relations services to government agencies and nonprofit organizations. We are SWAM certified by the state of Virginia as micro, small, and service disabled veteran owned. We are also federally certified by the SBA as a Hub Zone small business and CVE verified service disabled veteran owned small business. Our website is becker-digital.com. On there, we've got a number of resources under the resources tab, including things like blog posts, podcast episodes, and then recorded webinars past on a variety of topics related to digital marketing and social media. So if this is something that piques your interest, feel free to peruse the website. All those resources are free and are on a variety of topics. Just to give you an overview of our services, at Becker Digital, we specialize in going beyond the screen to engage communities and develop meaningful relationships. So we utilize communication tools like social media, public relations, and digital storytelling to accomplish this objective for our organizational clients. So a few areas of expertise that we've had past performance with are government community relations, working with rural populations, multi-generational audiences, and then also the military and veteran community. So just to give you a little bit of my background, again, I'm Hannah Becker. I'm creative director and a partner at Becker Digital. I've been with Becker Digital since its founding in 2015. I came from academia. I previously taught computer science and marketing at multiple universities across the Midwest. My bachelor's degree is from Mississippi State. I've got an MBA from Florida Tech. And currently, in addition to working with Becker Digital, I'm an adjunct at Virginia Military Institute in Lexington, Virginia. So I've been working in some version of social media and marketing for well over a decade. And during that time, it's really changed a lot. So there's always new trends, new features, new strategies to keep up with. And it's been an exciting ride. But I did, on this slides, got my email, hannah@becker-digital.com. If you want to connect with me, feel free to send me an email if you have any questions about the content we go over today. And then also feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. So with that intro, we'll dive into the content today. So social media has changed drastically since its kind of early stages. It used to just be primarily a teenage thing, and now everyone is on it. Over 70% of American adults are currently active, as in, every day on social media. Of course, it wasn't always this way. As social media has become more popular, it has had a greater and greater impact on our communities. So the emergence of social media in our society has truly changed how we connect, how we communicate, and even how we use the internet. Web 2.0 technologies like social media truly transform the internet from a place that was, just there to get information, like a digital encyclopedia, to a place where we have two-way conversations. We build out, online communities. We start relationships. We connect. We message. We communicate. So, now social media is really a 24/7 active online community. And thanks to social media, our society's really changed expectations on communication, information, media consumption, and even relationships, how people connect with the organizations they support, and the organizations that support them. So just to give you a little bit of an overview as far as really how prevalent social media is in our day-to-day life here in the United States. In 2020, people were averaging about 2.5 hours a day on social media. And we saw an increase since then, as the pandemic, kind of continued on, increase in usage and user engagement. During the pandemic, social media served as somewhat of a lifeline for many community members, to connect with the organizations in the community and connect with others. So for mission-driven organizations like government agencies and community nonprofits, this level of social media consumption, this increasing activity, is really important to note, because to be effective in communications and outreach, we really need to meet people where they are. And in today's digitally driven world, they are very much online, and they are on multiple social media platforms. So the tricky thing about social media is that it continues to evolve. It is always changing. So, the different features change, which platforms are popular change, which platforms are popular with certain demographics change. I tell people the only thing constant about social media and much of technology is that it is always changing. And an example of this is 2005, 2006, Facebook was restricted to sign up for a Facebook account. You had to have a .edu address. So you had to be a student enrolled in a university. And so it was extremely popular. The 18 to 25-year-old crowd made up the majority of Facebook users. Today, the fastest growing segment of Facebook users is actually senior citizens, which is, over the past 15 years, a huge change from how it started out with Facebook to where we see the growth demographically now. Today's 18 to 25-year-olds are rapidly ditching Facebook for other social media apps such as Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and even YouTube. So this is just kind of an example of how things don't necessarily remain constant in social media, and how it is always changing, which this fast rate of change is one thing that makes social media marketing challenging. So, kudos to you for prioritizing, social media related continuing education today. There is always something to learn when it comes to social media. So, as social media has become an increasingly important aspect of our day-to-day life, it's also impacted our communities. Organizations can benefit from utilizing social media, as social media can really amplify and enhance community relations and even aspects of operations. A few ways that mission-driven organizations can use social media is to distribute information about fundraisers, programs, job openings, and the like. Social media also provides, an easy way for organizations to stay in touch with the communities that they serve. And much of this is for free. You're not having to send out a mailer. You can simply post something online and distribute that information and keep in touch with your community as an organization. When social media is used effectively, it has this potential to really build community connections. It provides this immense direct access, because when you post something on an organization's social media channel, literally within seconds, it can arrive at someone's fingertips. So this is different than many of the traditional methods of marketing and outreach that we had prior to social media. So as we move throughout this webinar today, I would really encourage you to consider social media's potential going beyond, the Facebook buy and sell posts and community news. Social media has great potential to really engage the community and advance the mission, of your organization. I think social media tends to get a bad rap, and I try to stress, social media in and of itself isn't necessarily good or bad. It's really how it's used. And so when it's used in an effective, community enriching way, social media can be extremely helpful and improve the quality of life within our communities. So hopefully in today's webinar, you'll find have a few ways identified, or discover a few ways that you can use social media, your organization's social media, to accomplish that goal. So I wanted to define social media success, because I think that's a term that kind of gets thrown out a lot. And the truth of the matter is, social media success is defined differently for every organization. For a celebrity, having 2 million social media followers may be their definition of social media success. But for a local government agency, that goal's probably pretty unrealistic, and honestly wouldn't help, them accomplish or support their overall mission. Instead, they need to focus on how they can connect with their target audience. So for the purposes of this webinar, we'll use the term social media success as to how we can use social media to advance our organizational goals. So this will include things, depending on your organization, like increasing organizational membership, supporting fundraising initiatives, increasing event participation, community engagement, and program awareness. So as we mentioned earlier, one thing that makes social media really challenging is that it is always changing. So there's always a new app, there's a new trend, there's a new gimmick, there's a new feature. Staying on top of all these changes can be challenging. So I try to encourage people, instead of chasing gimmicks, we want to develop a strategy, an effective strategy that is somewhat evergreen and can carry our organization through the many different cycles of social media development. So social media has an immense influence on our society from, both a global level, but also down to a local level. I mean, people use social media for everything. They use it for entertainment. They communicate with friends and family. They research new brands. They find new jobs via social media. They archive their life. It's like a digital scrapbook, or can be used that way. Some file customer service complaints. They post negative reviews and post about products or companies that didn't live up to their expectations. They participate in advocacy and activism via social media, and even learn about new hobbies. All of this is on social media. So succeeding on social media is kind of best described as a moving target. And so I just want to kind of set expectations, because you're never going to find, just given the rate of change and innovation that occurs with technology, you're not going to find one strategy that's going to work for your organization for 15 years. You know, likewise, the social media strategy that works on, for an organization similar to yours in a different location may not work for your organization. So it's really important that we keep the focus when we're talking about social media success, that we keep focusing on how this relates to our organization, our community, our target audience, our available resources, and identify a way that we can put all of that together and have success online. So hopefully we'll cover some principles that will help you, be able to do that today. So social media can be a great way to build connections, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in the presentation. But it can also be a really good way to destroy connections and damage organizational reputations if it's not used in an effective manner. Now, you've probably seen this happen online. The same social media platform that enriches our lives by helping us connect with friends and family can also be used as a platform to divide people, divide communities through arguments and disputes. And I try to remind folks, with great reach on an organization's social media comes great responsibility. So this is something that we don't want to enter into lightly, and we need to kind of keep that in mind. What we post online for organizations may or may not, be benign. I mean, the potential for influence, the potential for how it can shape our culture, our society, our communities can be great. All right. So while defining social media success is organization specific, I did want to provide you with some insights into how I define social media success for our clients at Becker Digital. So to do so, I wanted to introduce 3 types of social media strategies that I routinely observe online with government agencies and nonprofit organizations. So the first type of strategy is a community building social media strategy. And this is my goal for all of our organizational clients. So in a community building social media strategy, organizations use their social media channels to engage users through informative content, meaningful conversation. They build and strengthen community relationships in a way that goes beyond the screen and prompts action. And their content enhances the organization's reputation. It doesn't damage it. The second type of social media strategy that we frequently observe is information broadcasting. And I would say that this is probably the majority of organizations' social media approach. So basically, they just post about the organization. That's it. Just post. It's just broadcasting information about the organization. And while this is one use of social media, it is really just scratching the surface in terms of social media's true potential. So they're kind of selling themselves short. They're doing part of what's successful to be, or part of how to be successful online, but they're not, turning it into enriching the community and building relationships. And then the third type of social media strategy is inconsistent or inactive. So I see this a lot when an organization lacks the resources or internal processes to effectively manage social media. So this strategy can be troubling depending on how the channels are managed. It can damage the organization's reputation and is really limited in both its ability to broadcast information and build relationships. So I always tell clients that it's better to be active on 2 or 3 social media channels than to be inconsistently active or inactive on 6 social media channels. So when it comes to social media, it's more quality than quantity. So there's a lot of social media myths out there. And if you've ever Googled social media marketing, you probably encountered a barrage of social media gimmicks and supposed silver bullets to social media success. And while we don't have time to go through all social media myths, I did want to hit on 3 really popular ones that have just kind of circulated for years that have the potential to really lead organizations astray and put them in a position where they're really not getting anywhere with their online activities. So the first myth is that it's all about what you post. So while what you post on social media certainly matters and is a very important part of the social media strategy, that's not the entirety of it. So the fact of the matter is that many mission-driven organizations are quite limited in their intrigue or grab factor of their social media content. Their programs and offerings simply do not compete of the social media content that is put out by mega celebrities. So social media was originally created as a publishing platform, or that was the main feature. However, social media offers so many more features than just broadcasting an organization's message. So while getting your information out online is very important, having good content, very important, we want to make sure that we're not just stopping there. So social media's features provide the opportunity for organizations to spark conversation and cultivate relationships through engagement. And those are 2 big keys for social media strategy success. A meaningful conversation online will go much farther in building your brand's social or community rapport than just posting another funny meme. So while content quality matters, so does facilitating online conversations and cultivating relationships. It's really about, having that engaging content that sparks that 2-way conversation and prompts action. The second myth I wanted to cover was if you build it, they will follow. Basically, or sometimes organizations will create, so they'll get on like a Pinterest account. They'll create it for their organization. They'll just forget about it, or a YouTube account or an Instagram account. And they think that just because they have created this account, people will follow them. And that's also not how social media works. So just being visible on an app is no longer enough to succeed. It might have worked 5 years ago. It's 2021. The space or the competition for social media user attention is fierce. So we want to make sure that of all the social media channels that we put our organization on, that we have a engagement strategy for all of those, along with a content management plan. So we need to be providing regular, engaging content on each platform that draws the social media users in and prompts actions through interactive opportunities. Just a few examples of interactive opportunities are things like contests, live video, virtual events, gamification, virtual scavenger hunts. These are all ways that organizations can cut through the noise and grow their online following. Also, providing opportunities for user-generated content to be showcased on your organization feeds when appropriate may be helpful in building that following. And then our third myth is that going viral is the goal. So while going viral sometimes is beneficial for organizations, it typically happens in like B2C, like retail type brands, that it's positive, or celebrity accounts. It should rarely be the goal of an effective social media strategy. And this is for a couple reasons. One, when something goes viral, it often has like a snowball effect as far as negative uh, aftershock with that. And if you don't have a crisis communications team, if you don't have a full PR department or an agency on retainer, that can be very challenging for a small organization to manage. And then secondly, it's very hard to predict what is going to go viral, what content online is going to go viral in any given day. So outside of organizations whose budget allows for incredibly advanced analytics and expert consumer psychology consultation, most brands are simply unable to predict post virility with much accuracy. There's so many factors that influences what's going to go viral online in any given day. It can be everything from current events can influence it, political climate, competing content, and even the weather can influence what goes viral. So it's hard to anticipate, and the benefits of going viral often they're not sustainable, and they don't pay in dividends like how a steady, consistent, community building, effective social media strategy does. So I know there's a lot of myths out there on social media or about social media, and this just scratched the surface. But when you're developing your organization's social media strategy, it's just really important to consider the validity of the information sources that you're reviewing and make sure that your campaign is built on solid intel. Consistent engagement that adds value and enriches the community is a much more strategic foundation than the latest social media gimmick that some blogger used and went viral overnight. So for mission-driven organizations, we just want to keep our social media strategy into perspective. Okay, so I know we've talked about social media from the 30,000 foot view. Now I want to go over a few specific social media marketing practices that we've implemented with mission-driven organizations. So one thing I'd like for you to remember as we go through this is that, community connections are what's most important. So clicks, numbers, analytics tend to kind of get all the focus when it comes to social media marketing. And it's easy to get lost with that. How many likes, how many followers, how many clicks. Those analytics can be very helpful to an organization. In my opinion, they're more diagnostic than the overall goal. So when I'm evaluating an organization's past social media performance, I'll review social media analytics to get some insight, to kind of like take the temp on, figuring out where they're succeeding and where they may be missing the mark. So this provides quantifiable insights into what type of content the audience enjoys versus what information is falling flat. What we want to do when marketing on social media is to utilize social media to amplify the organization's, message, build long-term community connections, and fulfill the organization's mission. And that is something that's rarely built on one post, or even a post that gets 1,000 likes. Instead, those products are the result of high quality content, consistently delivered, that enriches lives and inspires action, which is usually the product of a well-implemented and researched social media strategy. Also want to emphasize the importance of being consistent when it comes to marketing online. One post or one video isn't likely to catapult your organization into social media stardom. And social media success for the vast majority of organizations is not an overnight deal. It's a result of consistency and strategy. So, I tell you this as an encouragement, especially, a lot of nonprofits and smaller government agencies, they don't have huge budgets for marketing. They don't have, a 20-person team completely devoted to social media. And reality is you don't need that to succeed. There are ways when you conduct research, when you have a strategy that works for your organization and you're consistent about implementing it, you can really, really make some headway when it comes to social media. So wanted to just kind of talk about how we build community connections on social media, because I know that's something I've mentioned, and I wanted to kind of get in the weeds just a bit with that. So first off, we want to know our community or our target audience, and this we do through market research. So we want to know, we want to research our current followers and our target audiences. We want to know what matters most to them. We want to know what keeps them up at night, what causes they are passionate about, what challenges they're currently facing in their lives, how events and new developments are impacting their day. It's very important in marketing that we really understand the people we are trying to connect with, and then create content and create a social media approach that is reflective of where they are, they being the target audience, in their life. Whenever we work with a client at Becker Digital, that's the first thing we do on any type of social media related project, marketing, communications project. We conduct market research specific to the organization, and then we base the strategy off, what we found in our research process. So also, when you're marketing online, we want to take a daily pulse of current events, and this is to prevent being tone deaf. So even a well-meaning post can seem really insensitive during times of crisis. And we saw this a lot when news of the pandemic broke and companies continued to post scheduled content that promoted travel, in-person events, and even had creative assets that showed handshaking and people not wearing masks in the supermarket. So social media content that's out of place like that really just screams that the organization is out of touch and possibly irrelevant, and that we want to avoid that. So just, every day before you post content that was scheduled, take a pulse on what's going on in the world, and then just evaluate through that lens. Third, we want to engage consistently and positively. And when I say engage, this would be like comments on your organization's social media posts. So we don't want to post something on our organization's Facebook page and then go AWOL, take a vacation for 2 weeks without anyone tracking the conversation. So it's important to have someone in your organization monitor comments and encourage, social media conversations on your posts. So we want to keep our responses positive and professional and within organizational guidelines. So in today's world, it's very important that your organization has written social media guidelines that outline how to respond to comments and content that your organization may be tagged in online. And then fourth, we want to always remember that there is a human on the other side of social media. So remember, connections, not just clicks, right? So when we're online, it's easy to get in the zone and forget that people are actually reading and responding to content that we publish on our organization's social media accounts. When we are coming up with content to post online, it's important for us to consider the people that may come across this content. What if that was their first impression of your organization. What if one post they happened to come across on Twitter, on Instagram about your organization was their first impression, their introduction to your organization? What kind of an impression would that post leave? So that can be one way to kind of a quick evaluation tool when you're creating and deciding on content to post. So a few other social media marketing tips. It is best to use a multi-platform approach. So everyone within your target market isn't likely to be on just one social media app. So chances are your target audience is active on multiple different social media apps, and your organization should be too. It doesn't mean that you have to be active on all of them. Remember, quality over quantity, but it's a good idea to identify, 2, 3, 4 social media channels that your target audience is on, that your organization can consistently show up for and, publish good content. When you're deciding which social media platforms to be on, it's kind of a two-pronged approach. I get asked a lot. People will, when they find out I work in social media, they'll ask, what's the best app for us to be on? Well, is Facebook best? Is Instagram best? And in truth, there's really, the answer is just, it depends. It depends on your organization, and it depends on who you're trying to reach. So the apps, users vary in demographics, and it's important that you know where your target audience, what apps they're on, and then you meet them there. Likewise, it's also important that when you're evaluating which social media apps to be on, you think about what type of content they require. So for instance, Twitter is very good for sharing things like articles and blog posts. So it's primarily text-based. I mean, there is image and video functionality there, but it's primarily text-based. So if your organization creates a lot of blogs, Twitter might be a good one for you to prioritize. TikTok is a social media app that requires video content. So that one may be best for an organization that is capable of creating video content. If your organization, if creating blogs is about all your organizational team can do, then TikTok may not be a good fit for you, even if your target audience is on there. Then we also want to prioritize original content creation. So successful social media marketing isn't just sharing other people's content. So sharing other people's content can be a good way to connect and with your community, but it shouldn't be the only content that you share. Organizations should have a content creation and management plan for routinely developing original content. And when I say original content, this is things like blogs, infographics, and educational videos to share on their own social media accounts. When it comes to content, we want to provide a variety of content types. So don't just post news articles. There's multiple ways to showcase and distribute information. We want to think outside the box here and get creative in our content creation for social media. Say your organization really excels in creating blog posts, informative blog posts. You can take that content and you can also, in addition to the blog post, create an infographic off that content. You can create a video off that content. You can create informative graphics for Instagram off that content. So when you are thinking about the type of content your organization can create to engage social media followers, think about, maybe some ways you can add some variety in there and also repurpose the same content, presenting it in different forms for the different social media apps. We can also offer opportunities for follow engagement. This is doing things like asking questions, conducting surveys or polls, encouraging conversations, all ways to engage social media followers. And then finally, we really want to commit to reevaluating what's working and what isn't to ensure that our organization's social media is on point. So remember, social media is always changing. So it's really important to schedule routine evaluations of your social media marketing efforts. You can do this, solicit feedback from other members of your team or organization, and then you can also seek outside input from, an agency such as Becker Digital. Sometimes just having a fresh perspective can breathe new life into an organization's social media strategy. Okay, so successful social media doesn't just happen. It really requires the development of a strategy that's based on market research and customized to the organization. Randomly posting stuff online isn't going to get you very far. It is better than doing nothing, but having some strategy behind it can really help you take, your social media to the next level. There's a better, more efficient way to do social media than to just randomly post things, and it involves taking the time to develop a social media strategy. It's really important when we develop a social media strategy that it is specific to the organization. So when I'm working with clients with Becker Digital, one of the first things that I have the clients do is provide me with kind of an inventory. So basically, their overall organizational goals, and then an inventory or an assessment of what resources they actually have available to devote to social media. It would be great if we could all spend 100 hours a week, perfecting our social media accounts for our organizations, but that is unrealistic. So it's important to be realistic and think about how many employees you have, what's your budget, how many hours you realistically have to devote to this, and then build a strategy off those constraints. So no two organizations are the same. So social media strategies need to be, tailored to the organization and really meet them where they're at. So at Becker Digital, social media strategies and communications plans are our bread and butter. So we sometimes we work with organizations to create, we create a social media strategy. We conduct market research, create a social media strategy specific to them, and then they implement it with their employees. And then other times we do the strategy and assume all management of social media. So there are many aspects to how to create an effective social media strategy. And I wanted to briefly touch on 6 key elements to a successful social media strategy. This is an overview. It's very consolidated, but I wanted to just kind of hit on the main points, and hopefully that gives you some actionable insights into where you can kind of go from here. So successful social media strategy is aligned with the organization's goals. So development goals for your organization and digital strategy should be fully integrated. They're not separate. So it's really important that you start here and you have a good handle on what the overall organizational mission is, what it's hoping to accomplish, and then identify ways that social media can support that. Secondly, we want to make sure our strategy is fully developed with the organization's target audience in mind. So just posting stuff online that you like isn't going to cut it if you're tasked with managing a mission-driven organization's social media channels. So it's all about your target audience. You need to conduct market research or hire a firm to do so, like Becker Digital, and really have a good handle on who you're trying to connect with, and then have that data that shows you how you can connect with them effectively online. Because otherwise, without that research, you may just be spinning your wheels and wasting a lot of resources, being both time and money. So it's important to really know your audience. Third element is, we really want to focus on engaging social media content. And when I say engaging, it's something that encourages conversation, it prompts people to share, it may even spark some user action to sign up for something or donate to something, or we really want a high level of engagement. And that goes beyond just hitting the like button on a post. So how engagement is defined depends on the organization's goals, and it depends on the content, but we really want those two things to be aligned. And fourth, all social media content should provide value to the social media user. So an effective social media strategy truly makes the users, the followers, lives better. It's a lot more involved than just posting an event link. We want all of our content to offer value that goes beyond mere information broadcasting. So if you go back earlier in the webinar, we talked about the 3 different types of social media strategies that are frequently observed. We want to take things beyond just information broadcasting. We really want to enrich people's lives. And this is something you can keep in mind when you think about, should I post this? If I post this, how should I caption this? What should I describe with this? Good social media content, it inspires, it educates, and it connects. And our 5th element, meaningful digital content, is definitely focused on building long-term relationships. So it's not just getting a bunch of people to see it, hitting like, and forgetting about it. We really want to use social media to build relationships that go beyond one post. And this is one of social media's most underutilized capabilities. So the goal of an effective social media strategy isn't just to accumulate a ton of likes. We really want to, go beyond the screen. We want to, spark action, generate support, recruit organizational ambassadors. All these are potentials on social media, and that's where the real benefit lies, not just accumulating a bunch of followers or accumulating a bunch of likes. And how an organization defines what a long-term relationship with the community looks like for them depends on their mission, their communities served. But it's something to kind of keep in mind as far as sustainable success online. And then finally, it's really important, as we mentioned, social media changes frequently. We want to routinely reassess. So what I recommend clients do that are operating on a limited budget, have limited employees to devote to social media, is to schedule like a quarterly assessment of social media content on all platforms. How did it go? Are you increasing in followers? What are the engagement stats? What type of content did people respond to? Is there a certain time of day or time of week that your followers seem to be more active online? This is stuff that it's more than just like housekeeping tasks. It's actually, it can be very influential in keeping the strategy that you have relevant, and also, optimizing kind of the impact there. All right, and as we kind of conclude or wrap up here, social media is complicated. It is always changing, but it's definitely doable. And building, these relationships, connecting with communities through social media is achievable, and it's something that your organization, should be striving to do. It doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a huge ad budget, to promote posts. Just a few kind of to recap a few takeaways, engagement is everything. We want to spark conversations. We want users to share our content. We want to use our social media channels to provide quality online experiences that build community connections and enrich lives, informs, educates, and connects. We're looking for something a little beyond information broadcasting. And so that's something to keep in mind as you kind of chart your organization's social media course. And then, yes, social media is constantly changing. That's a fact. We can't change that. But what we can do is routinely invest in social media training, which all of you are currently doing today. Staying on top of social media trends and features while maintaining fresh ideas for online content, is a tall order. There are a lot of resources out there. I would encourage you to go to our website under our resources tab. We try to routinely update with a kind of a need to know, priorities for mission-driven organizations in the government nonprofit space, where they can kind of get the biggest bang for their buck online with limited resources. And then finally, market research really pays in dividends. So if you don't have the budget to hire, bring on another employee to manage social media, or hire an agency to manage all of your social media accounts, I would encourage you to invest in, conducting market research, either yourself doing that, or, hiring an agency like Becker Digital and developing a strategy that then you can implement consistently. So I know today's webinar covered a lot of information, and I appreciate you hanging in there. For additional resources, you go to our website. Under the resources tab, there's a blog. On the blog, we get into a lot of app specific insights, like how to succeed on Instagram, what you should be doing on Twitter. We get into multi-generational marketing, how to connect with millennials, Gen Zers, Gen Xers. You can subscribe to our newsletter every month if you just, want to get that. We do that once a month, and it's just kind of a roundup of the resources that we put out for that month. All of those are free. And then also webinars like this one, we have numerous ones recorded, and they're available for free as well, and on everything from, just kind of a broad range of marketing topics, but most of them is just focused on digital marketing and integrated marketing approaches, and everything. All the resources that we put out are specific to government and nonprofit organizations. So anyway, if you have any questions over what we covered today, or are looking for resource recommendations, feel free to email me at hannah@becker-digital.com. I will be emailing you a recording of today's, or a link to today's webinar recording. Becker Digital is available to help support your organization's communications and social media needs. Feel free to reach out to us. We've got our website, phone number, email, and we would love to learn more about your organization and, see how digital strategy could help you fulfill your mission. With that, I thank you for joining us today, and appreciate you spending time going over social media, and commend you on continuing education. And feel free to connect with me online. And then if you would like to receive invites to future webinars on marketing communications topics, just sign up to our newsletter. And with that, we'll conclude.